Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Wahyu Manuhara Putra. I'm come from FEB UMY, and this session I will present my paper, The Effect of the Diamond Fraud Model, Organizational Culture, and Internal Control of Fraud Financial Statement. This paper is based on the phenomenon. The first, during 2014 Association of Certified Fraud Examiners report that there were more than 1,400 cases of financial fraud in various countries, and in fact that frauds were committed by managerial level is about 36%, done by employee 42%, and corporate between owner and manager 19%. And the second, many empirical studies have examined the factor that trigger ones to commit financial statement fraud, but that several previous studies show inconsistent results. And this is what triggered in my research. Inconsistent of the fraud model research can be found at Maria and Hatem research, Aprilia research, and Nakashima research. And inconsistent of the internal control research can be found at Susilowati and Devi research, that there is a support between internal control and fraud financial statement. Tahu Puring and Lingga found a negative effect between internal control and fraud financial statement, and Wulandari and Nuryanto found a positive relation between internal control and fraud. And the next step, inconsistent of the organization research by Rahmi, and she conclude that there is no uh, support to organization research and fraud model. And Susilo and Devi research found a positive relationship between organization research. The purpose of the research is to determine the level of accuracy of the measurement model of financial fraud, with element of financial fraud, and to examine the effect of pressure, opportunity, rationalization, capability, internal control, and organization culture on financial statement. Okay, the urgency of this research is first, providing the level of accuracy of measurement model of financial fraud by companies in industry sector in Indonesia, and the second, confirming the result of previous study because it will test various driving variable of financial fraud. Financial fraud is based on the presence of a conflict of interest between the principal and agent, and its effect that make a fraud of financial statement. And the motivation to commit financial fraud in this research uses the diamond fraud model that coined by Wolf and Hermansen as a renewal of Donald Criset triangle fraud model. And we can see on this slide that the fraud model consists of incentive or uh, pressure, opportunity, rationalization, and capability. Internal Internal control. The company's internal control is expected to protect of the organization financial and assets to ensure that there is effective and efficient asset management and produce accurate financial report. And based on the Abiola research, he concluded that weakness in the internal control system will cause manipulation, loss, and failure of to achieve organization goal. Okay, the next slide is organization culture. Company culture can influence management behavior in taking action. And this is because the corporate culture acts as a basis for relation between agent and principal. And Cameroon and Queen developed a model of OCAE, Organizational Culture Assessment Instrument. Yeah. This model divides organization culture model into four criteria. The first is clan, autocracy, market, and the last is hierarchy. And this is a diagram or picture organizational culture model based on OCAE. And there are four criteria about culture: the clan, autocracy, hierarchy, and market. The clan culture focus on internal company, especially employee, and always tries to develop the competence of its human resource. And the second is advocacy. Advocacy culture focus on creating future market opportunity, expanding innovative product lines, and developing new technology. The third is a market. Market culture is oriented toward the external environment of the company. This culture focuses on transaction with external party to company, such as supplier, customer, regulatory agencies, and other uh, parties. Okay, and the last uh, culture is a hierarchy. Hierarchy culture focuses on internal and controlling the company. Company with a high hierarchical culture will implement their policy with strict rule and procedure. Okay, this paper have six hypotheses. The hypothesis first is a pressure effect on financial statement fraud. Hypothesis number two, opportunity effect on fraud financial statement. Hypothesis number three, rationalization has a positive effect on financial statements. And fourth hypothesis, rationalization has a positive effect on financial statement fraud. And hypothesis number five, internal control effects on financial statement fraud. And the last hypothesis, number six, culture effects on financial statement fraud. And the slides describe the theoretical framework, of my paper. There are three kind of variable. In the middle of variable is a fraud diamond, and the above of variable is internal control, and the bottom variable is a corporate culture. This research method population companies listed in Indonesia Stock Exchange for 2014 until 2017. And we use a purposive sample based on criteria. These criteria are first, company that commit financial fraud between 2014 until 2017 based on OJK. Second is we use a similar company as comparison between above. And the last, the data consistent. Operational variable. These slides explain variable dependent, and we use a tendency of financial fraud to measure of a fraud financial statement. And this proxy we use a F score. This F score consists of or combined between accrual quality plus financial performance. Next slide to explain independent variable. The first variable is a pressure variable. There are three proxy to measure pressure variable that are financial stability is measured by a change. Second, external pressure measured by leverage, and last measure by financial target that I choose a ROA proxy. Next variable is a opportunity variable. There are three proxy to measure opportunity variable. The first is a nature of industry that measured by inventory approach. The second, nature of industry also, but with a receivable approach. And the last proxy we use effective monitoring. Okay, the next slide is a rationalization variable. Proxy of that variable change in auditor use a dummy variable. Next, capability variable, we use a COA change, and of course we use a dummy variable. Next slide, internal control variable. We use a five proxy to measure internal control. The first is audit quality. Second, audit committee size. Third, institutional ownership. Fourth, managerial ownership. And the last proxy is a size of board director. And the last variable, corporate culture. As we explained above that corporate culture or culture variable consists of four proxy. The first is clan, second autocracy, third market, and the last proxy hierarchy. Okay, this is a result hypothesis. We use a PLS statistic, and the slides describe the result of hypothesis based on table. On the table, we can see that variable pressure have a p-value more than 5%. And it means that variable pressure has no effect on financial statement. Next, variable opportunity have a smaller than a significant value of 5%. And it means that there is an effect of opportunity variable on financial statement fraud. Next, variable rationality. Find that p-value has greater than 5%. So it can be concluded that the interaction between rationality and financial statement doesn't have a significant effect. Okay, next, variable capability state that the result of that statistic can be found that p-value is greater than the significant value 5%. So it means that uh, capability doesn't have any significant effect on financial statement fraud. Okay, the final next is I'm sorry, the internal control variable. We can see on the p value uh, internal control uh, is greater than 5% alpha. So it means that internal control has no significant effect on financial statement. And the last variable is organizational culture. Okay, we can see on the p value that the p value of organization culture more than alpha 5%, and it's mean that organizational culture doesn't have a significant effect on financial statement fraud. So we can summarize from the table that the first hypothesis is rejected, second hypothesis accepted, and uh, hypothesis number 3, 4, 5, and 6 are rejected. Okay, and the last slide is a conclusion. Okay, variable of pressure, rationality, capability, internal control, and organizational culture have no effect on fraudulent financial statement. And opportunity variable effects on fraudulent financial statement. Uh, Based on that founding, we can make a conclusion that opportunity is domain of management. So to avoid fraudulent financial statement, it is necessary to focus on corporate financial governance. And the next research uh, use different model or measure of fraud such as Binet score. Thank you.